An unexpected encounter. Lily Monroe never imagined her life would turn out like this. Exhausted, broke, and stretched so thin she could barely function. Life had not been kind to her lately. For months, she had been juggling 2 jobs, working as a hotel cleaning staff during the day, and taking over the night shifts for a coworker who conveniently always had an excuse to skip work. It wasn't that she wanted to do it, but the bills wouldn't stop piling up, and rent was due. Tonight was no different. The Grand Everwood Hotel, a 5-star luxury palace in the middle of the city, was bustling as usual, with wealthy guests arriving in expensive cars, dressed in designer suits and glittering dresses. They checked in, greeted by polished receptionists, while waiters carried silver trays of champagne through the marble-floored lobby. Lily, in contrast, moved like a ghost among them, invisible to the world of the rich and powerful. No one paid attention to the cleaning staff. Her feet ached, her back screamed for relief, and her eyelids drooped with exhaustion. She had spent hours scrubbing bathrooms, changing sheets, and making sure the suites looked perfect for the guests who would never know her name. And yet, she wasn't even halfway done with her shift. As she pushed her cleaning cart down the silent hallway of the VIP floor, she sighed. Just one more suite. Just one more, and I can finally go home. The last room of the night. The suite was the biggest she had ever seen. An entire apartment that screamed luxury, with velvet curtains, gold-rimmed mirrors, and a bathroom larger than her entire studio apartment. The scent of fresh roses filled the air, no doubt imported just for decoration. Lily muttered to herself as she started cleaning. Who even needs a bathroom this big? You could live in here. She scrubbed the sink, wiped down the mirrors, and disinfected every surface. Her body begged for rest. Her mind was on autopilot, her hands moving mechanically. She bent down to clean the bathtub, resting her head on her arm for just a second. Just 5 seconds. Just 5. Her breathing slowed. And before she knew it, she was asleep. The CEO's return. Dylan Scott was beyond exhausted. A long day of back-to-back meetings, negotiations, and investor calls had drained him. Running a multi-billion-dollar empire was supposed to be glamorous, but no one ever talked about how mentally and physically exhausting it could be. As the CEO of Scott Enterprises, the company that owned Everwood Hotel, he had spent the day dealing with problems that never seemed to end. All he wanted now was silence and a hot shower to clear his head. Still dressed in his suit, he entered his VIP suite, tossing his tie onto the couch as he headed straight for the bathroom. He didn't even bother turning on the lights. He had stayed here long enough to know his way around in the dark. But the moment he stepped inside, he froze. There, leaning against the toilet lid, fast asleep, was a woman in a hotel uniform. Dylan's exhausted brain took a moment to process the scene. At first, he thought he was imagining things. Then reality hit. There was a stranger in his bathroom. A stranger, sleeping on his toilet. The startled awakening. What the hell? His voice boomed through the bathroom, loud enough to make the mirrors tremble. Lily's eyes snapped open. Her body jerked upright in panic. In her drowsy confusion, she lost balance and crashed to the floor, knocking over the cleaning bucket. The loud clatter of bottles and brushes echoed in the room. Dylan jumped back, his heart pounding as if he had walked into a horror movie. His mind raced through possibilities. Was she a thief? A deranged fan? Meanwhile, Lily was completely disoriented. She blinked up at the half-dressed, furious man standing over her. Her sleepy brain took a moment to register who he was. Tall, dark-haired, a strong, chiseled jaw, intense blue eyes that burned with frustration, and incredibly handsome. Wait, where was she? Then it hit her. The VIP suite, the bathroom, the guest. Oh no, a very bad first impression. Lily's eyes widened in horror. She was in trouble. I swear, I didn't steal anything, she blurted out. Dylan blinked, his confusion growing. What? I just fell asleep here. I mean, no, that sounds worse. She stammered, raising her hands as if expecting security to drag her out at any second. I was just cleaning, and then my body shut down. Dylan pinched the bridge of his nose, trying to process what was happening. So, my bathroom is a dormitory now. Lily winced. It was a very short nap. 5 minutes at most. Oh, right, Dylan scoffed. And you know this because you have a built-in stopwatch in your brain. Lily was sweating now. This was not how she had planned her night to go. She was supposed to clean, clock out, and go home, not get caught sleeping in the bathroom of a multi-millionaire CEO. Sir, I know this looks bad, but I swear. Dylan sighed deeply, running a hand through his already messy hair. He wanted to be mad. He really did. But for some reason, he wasn't. Instead, he stared at the exhausted woman on the floor, her face flushed with embarrassment, her uniform wrinkled, and her dark brown hair falling out of its ponytail. She looked like someone who had been running on fumes for far too long. And for the first time that day, instead of thinking about business deals or quarterly reports, Dylan found himself intrigued. The coffee test. Without another word, Dylan turned on his heel and walked out of the bathroom. Lily scrambled to her feet. Wait. Sir, where are you going? Dylan ignored her, heading straight for the kitchenette in the suite. He grabbed a cup of coffee from the hotel's complimentary service and handed it to her. Drink this. Lily frowned. What? Just try it. Still confused, she took the cup and sniffed. Immediately, her nose wrinkled. This is terrible, she muttered. Dylan raised an eyebrow. You can tell just from the smell. Lily hesitated. Oh yeah. She had always had a sharp sense of taste and smell. She could tell when food had been left out too long, when coffee beans were over-roasted, when a sauce was missing a key ingredient. It was something she never thought twice about. It was just a weird little talent. Dylan tilted his head. His interest peaked. The hotel's coffee is awful. I've complained for weeks, but no one can fix it. Maybe you can. Lily blinked. Wait, what? Dylan smirked. Congratulations. You're not fired. You're promoted. And just like that, her life changed forever. A promotion she never expected. Lily Monroe had prepared for many things in her life. Hardships, long hours, exhaustion. But nothing had prepared her for the absolute madness that was unfolding before her eyes. One moment, she had been half asleep on the toilet lid, thinking she was about to lose her job. The next, she was standing in the VIP suite's kitchen, a cup of bad coffee in her hands, while a multimillionaire CEO watched her like she had just unlocked the secrets of the universe. Wait, what did you just say? She asked, staring at Dylan Scott in disbelief. Dylan leaned casually against the counter, arms crossed, his piercing blue eyes locked onto hers. He looked too calm for someone who had just found a cleaning lady sleeping in his bathroom. You're not fired, he repeated, tilting his head slightly. You're promoted. Lily blinked, twice. I don't think cleaning staff get promoted too, whatever this is. Dylan smirked. Well, they do now. Welcome to your new job, Lily. You're going to help me fix this hotel's food and drinks. The words made absolutely no sense. Lily gawked at him, her brain short-circuiting. I clean rooms, Mr. Scott. I don't run a kitchen, and I definitely don't fix billionaire coffee problems. Dylan raised an eyebrow. You just did. Lily opened her mouth, then closed it. She couldn't argue with that. She had taken one sniff of the coffee and called out every mistake in it like she had been doing it for years. Still, this had to be a joke. You're messing with me, she muttered. This is just some weird CEO power trip, right? Like, oh, let's mess with the cleaning lady and see how long she freaks out before I fire her anyway. Dylan chuckled, shaking his head. Trust me, Lily. If I wanted to fire you, I would have done it 10 minutes ago. Lily crossed her arms. I don't get it. Why do you care so much about a bad cup of coffee? Dylan let out a sigh, running a hand through his hair before answering. Because this hotel is supposed to be one of the best in the world. 5 stars, luxury, perfection. He gestured toward the untouched food in the suite. And yet, the coffee tastes like burnt regret. The food is forgettable. And none of the staff seemed to care. His expression hardened. I built this empire from the ground up. I don't tolerate mediocrity. Lily studied him. For the first time, she saw something behind the cold, business-like exterior. Passion. Drive. A man who wasn't just rich for the sake of being rich. He actually cared. And now, for some insane reason, he wanted her help. And what exactly do you think I can do about it? She asked hesitantly. Dylan smirked. You tell me, Lily, what's wrong with the food in this hotel? The taste test. Lily sighed. She should have walked away. She should have laughed, handed back the coffee, and left the VIP suite like nothing had happened. But there was something about Dylan Scott's confident challenge that made her pause. She looked down at the steaming cup of coffee, lifted it to her nose again, and took a deep breath. It's burnt. Over-roasted beans. Whoever brewed this used the wrong water temperature, making it bitter. And they probably added too much sugar to cover it up. Dylan's expression didn't change, but his eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Go on. Lily hesitated, but at this point, she was already in too deep. She picked up a silver tray of pastries from the suite's dining table and took a small bite of a croissant. Immediately, she winced. This is a mess. The butter isn't fresh, the layers aren't flaky, and it's been reheated, which ruins the texture. Whoever made this either rushed or didn't care. Dylan nodded like he had just won a bet with himself. Anything else? Lily sighed, then pointed at the fruit platter. That melon. Overripe. The grapes. Too sour. And don't even get me started on the yogurt parfait. That's not real vanilla. It's cheap artificial flavoring. Dylan finally smiled. Congratulations, Lily. You just confirmed everything I've been complaining about for months. Lily stared at him, stunned. Wait, you already knew. Of course, I have a decent palate, but I needed someone who actually knows what they're talking about. Lily threw her hands up. Then why ask me? I'm a cleaning lady, not a food critic. Dylan smirked. That's where you're wrong. An offer she couldn't ignore. Dylan set the coffee cup down and crossed his arms. I don't think you realize what kind of talent you have. Lily frowned. I just pointed out bad food. Anyone can do that. No, Dylan countered. Most people just accept what they're given. You knew exactly what was wrong, down to the ingredients. That's not luck. That's skill. Lily shifted uncomfortably. No one had ever called her talented before. She had spent her whole life being overlooked, doing thankless jobs just to survive. But now, a billionaire CEO was looking at her like she was the missing piece to his puzzle. I want you to help me fix this hotel's menu, Dylan said simply. Lily almost choked on air. Excuse me. Work with the chefs. Taste everything. Make sure we're serving 5-star quality food. Tell me what needs to change. Lily shook her head rapidly. No, absolutely not. That's not my job. It is now. I already have 2 jobs. I work myself half to death. And now you want me to. Dylan held up a hand, cutting her off. Fine. I'll double your salary. Lily's mouth snapped shut. Triple it, Dylan added, his smirk widening. Lily stared at him, feeling her pulse skyrocket. That was more money than she had ever dreamed of making. It would mean no more double shifts. No more struggling to pay rent. No more exhaustion so deep she fell asleep on toilet seats. It would mean a real chance at a better life. She exhaled sharply, rubbing her forehead. So let me get this straight. You want me, a cleaning lady, to work with your professional chefs and tell them how to fix their cooking. Yes. And you're paying me triple. Yes. Lily narrowed her eyes. And this isn't some elaborate prank where I end up in a viral video. Dylan chuckled. I don't have time for pranks, Lily. She stared at him for a long moment. Then finally she sighed. Fine. But if I get yelled at by an angry chef, I'm throwing a croissant at your head. Dylan grinned. Deal. Lily groaned, already regretting everything. She had no idea what she was getting herself into. But one thing was certain. Her life was never going to be the same again. A cleaning lady walks into a kitchen and changes everything. Lily Monroe had agreed to something completely insane. One day ago, she was scrubbing floors and folding sheets. Now she was walking into the Everwood Hotel's 5-star kitchen, where world-class chefs crafted dishes that cost more than her monthly rent. She had no formal training, no experience, and no idea why Dylan Scott, multi-millionaire CEO and professional nightmare, thought she was qualified to be here. All she had was her instincts, and the feeling that she was about to get roasted alive by the head chef. The battlefield of fine dining. The kitchen was a symphony of chaos. Chefs moved with military precision, plating delicate dishes, tossing ingredients in flaming pans, and shouting orders across the stainless steel battlefield. The scent of sizzling meat, fresh herbs, and expensive wine filled the air, mingling with the rhythmic chopping of knives. Lily felt like an intruder in a sacred temple. She hesitated at the doorway, suddenly unsure. This is a bad idea. A really, really bad idea. But before she could turn and escape, a deep, irritated voice cut through the air. This is a joke, right? Lily snapped her head up to see Chef Eduardo Rivera, the head of the Everwood Hotel's kitchen, standing with his arms crossed, his sharp eyes locked onto her like a hawk. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man with a neatly trimmed beard and the intimidating presence of a battlefield general. Tell me I'm hallucinating, Eduardo said, looking directly at Dylan, who stood beside her. You did not just drag the hotel's cleaning lady into my kitchen. Lily swallowed hard. Yup, this is where I die. Dylan, the CEO who didn't care about rules. Dylan, however, looked completely unbothered. He adjusted his expensive watch, looking around the kitchen with the casual confidence of a man who owned the entire building. Eduardo, he said smoothly, Lily here has an incredible palate. She can identify mistakes in food better than anyone I've met. Eduardo let out a short, humorless laugh. Oh, really? And where exactly did she train? Le Cordon Bleu, Paris Culinary Institute. Nope, Dylan replied, smirking. She works in housekeeping. The kitchen went completely silent. Dozens of chefs, line cooks, and kitchen staff turned to stare at Lily like she had just announced she was an alien from Mars. Lily could feel the heat rising in her face. Great, my first day, and I'm already a walking disaster. Eduardo sighed, rubbing his temples. Dylan, I don't have time for your games. We run a professional kitchen. We don't need amateur food critics. Then why is the food still bad? Dylan cut in. The words hit like a slap, and the kitchen staff shifted uncomfortably. Eduardo's jaw tightened. What are you talking about? The food is mediocre. Dylan didn't even hesitate. You know it. I know it. Our guests know it. And the problem has been ignored for too long. He turned to Lily and gestured toward a counter lined with freshly plated dishes, ready for room service. Tell me what's wrong with these. Lily's eyes widened. Wait, what? You want me to taste them? Dylan interrupted. Tell me if they're up to 5-star standards. Lily stared at the dishes. This was a terrible idea. She could already feel the hostility radiating from the kitchen staff. They had worked years, decades, to reach this level. And now, she, a housekeeping employee, was being asked to judge their work. She braced herself for an all-out war. And then she picked up a fork. The moment of truth. The first dish was seared steak with truffle butter and roasted potatoes. Lily took a small bite and immediately frowned. "The seasoning is off," she said, chewing slowly. "It's oversalted, and the truffle butter is too strong. The meat is high quality, but the flavors are clashing." The room went even quieter. Eduardo raised an eyebrow, crossing his arms. "Is that so?" Lily ignored him and moved to the next dish, a seafood risotto. She took a spoonful, let the flavors sit on her tongue, and shook her head. "The rice is slightly overcooked. The seafood isn't bad, but whoever made this used too much white wine, so the acidity is overpowering everything else." Eduardo's expression darkened, but Dylan looked pleased. Lily moved to a dessert plate, a slice of rich chocolate cake topped with fresh berries. She took a bite and made a face of pure disappointment. "This chocolate is cheap," she said bluntly. "It's too sweet. The balance is off. A five-star hotel should not be using low-quality chocolate." A stunned silence filled the kitchen. Lily slowly lowered her fork, feeling her stomach sink. "I just committed career suicide, haven't I?" Eduardo stared at her, his face unreadable. Then, out of nowhere, he laughed. A deep, genuine laugh that caught everyone off guard. "Finally," he muttered, shaking his head. "Someone who tells the truth." Lily blinked. "Wait, what?" Eduardo stepped forward, looking at her with newfound respect. "She's right," he admitted, gesturing toward the plates. "I knew the food wasn't up to standard, but no one had the guts to say it outright." He glanced at Dylan. "I don't like you, but I'll admit you brought someone useful." Dylan smirked. "Told you." Lily, still completely confused, pointed at herself. "So, I'm not getting thrown out of the kitchen." Eduardo chuckled. "No, Miss Monroe, you're staying. A new beginning." By the end of the day, Lily wasn't just a cleaning lady anymore. She was now part of something bigger. Eduardo had officially assigned her as a tasting consultant, working alongside the kitchen team to improve quality control. Her life had changed overnight, and it was only the beginning. As she left the kitchen that evening, her mind was spinning. She had stood in a room full of professionals, judged their food, and lived to tell the tale. And somehow, she had earned their respect. As she walked out into the hallway, she heard a deep voice behind her. "Not bad for your first day, Monroe." She turned to see Dylan Scott leaning against the doorframe, his usual smirk in place. "You did well." Lily scoffed. "Gee, thanks, boss. Almost had a heart attack back there." Dylan chuckled. "You'll survive. And something tells me this is just the beginning." Lily sighed, rubbing her temples. "Great, more disasters ahead." Dylan winked. "Exactly." And for the first time, in a long time, Lily smiled. She had no idea where this new path would take her, but something told her it was going to change her life forever. The taste of success. Lily Monroe never expected to find herself in the heart of the culinary world. She had gone from scrubbing floors to tasting high-end dishes in a five-star hotel kitchen in less than a week. What started as an embarrassing accident, falling asleep in the CEO's bathroom, had somehow turned into a career-defining moment. She wasn't just a cleaning lady anymore. She was the woman who had shaken up the entire Everwood Hotel kitchen. The road to perfection. Day after day, Lily found herself standing side by side with professional chefs, testing dishes, correcting mistakes, and offering insights she never knew she had. The skeptical kitchen staff had stopped doubting her. Even Chef Eduardo, who had once looked at her like she didn't belong, now sought her opinion before finalizing the hotel's new menu. "Monroe, taste this sauce," he'd call out, sliding a spoon toward her. "Too much garlic," she'd reply without hesitation. "Damn it," Eduardo would mutter, adjusting the seasoning. It became a routine, one that no one in the hotel had ever seen before. And in the middle of it all was Dylan Scott, watching with quiet amusement as Lily transformed from a behind-the-scenes worker to a key player in the hotel's success. A CEO with a vision. One afternoon, Dylan invited Lily to the rooftop of the Everwood Hotel, a private space overlooking the entire city. The view was breathtaking, the skyline stretching endlessly under the golden sunset. "You know," Dylan said, leaning on the railing beside her, "I never expected to find talent in my bathroom." Lily groaned. "Will I ever live that down?" Dylan smirked. "Probably not." She sighed, shaking her head. But deep down, she knew this moment wouldn't have happened if she hadn't fallen asleep that night. Dylan turned to her, his expression more serious now. "What do you want to do next, Lily?" She frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean, do you really want to keep working double shifts, running yourself into exhaustion, or do you want something bigger?" Lily stared at him, trying to understand where he was going with this. "You have a gift," Dylan continued, "a rare one, and I don't think you've ever had the chance to use it properly." Lily hesitated. She had never thought about her future like this before. Her whole life had been about survival, paying rent, making it through each shift, trying not to fall apart. She had never stopped to think about what she actually wanted. "I don't know," she admitted. "I never had the luxury of dreaming big." Dylan's expression softened. "Then maybe it's time you did." An offer she couldn't refuse. 2 days later, Dylan called an official staff meeting in the grand dining hall of the Everwood Hotel. The entire kitchen staff was present: chefs, managers, waiters, even the hotel's board members, and Lily was standing at the front of the room next to him. She had no idea why she was there. Dylan turned to the crowd, his voice calm but commanding. "Over the past few months, I've been working to improve this hotel. But the real change started when someone pointed out exactly what was wrong and wasn't afraid to say it." He turned to Lily, smiling slightly. That person was Lily Monroe. Lily felt every pair of eyes land on her. Her hands clenched at her sides. What was he doing? Effective immediately, Dylan continued, "Lily Monroe will no longer be working in housekeeping." Lily's heart stopped. Instead, she will take on a new role as the Everwood Hotel's official quality control consultant, overseeing everything from food to customer experience. Lily's jaw dropped. The kitchen staff whispered in shock, while Eduardo grinned proudly. Lily, however, was speechless. "Dylan, what the hell?" she hissed under her breath. Dylan smirked. "Consider it a well-earned promotion." She turned to him, her voice low and desperate. "I can't do this. I don't have experience. I don't even know what a quality control consultant is." "You're already doing the job, Monroe. Might as well get paid for it." Lily felt lightheaded. The room burst into applause, and just like that, her entire world changed. 1 year later, the Everwood Hotel became one of the most talked-about luxury destinations in the country. Its restaurant, once mediocre, earned a Michelin star. Food critics praised the remarkable improvements to its menu. Guests raved about the exceptional attention to detail in every aspect of their stay. And at the center of it all was Lily Monroe. She no longer worked double shifts, no longer spent sleepless nights scrubbing floors, no longer felt invisible. She had a real career, a job where her voice mattered. And the person who had pushed her to see her own worth was Dylan Scott. A love that was never expected. Somewhere along the way, something had changed between them. What started as a professional partnership slowly turned into something deeper. It was in the small moments, the way Dylan always made sure she never skipped meals, the way Lily called him out when he overworked himself, the way they argued over the best way to make coffee in the mornings. It was in the stolen glances, the lingering touches, the way Dylan's eyes softened whenever she laughed, the way Lily's heart raced whenever he was near. Neither of them planned it. But one evening, as they stood on the rooftop overlooking the city, Dylan took her hand. "You changed everything, Monroe," he murmured. Lily smiled, squeezing his hand. "You did too, Scott." And for the first time in her life, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. Not just in her career, but in her heart. This concludes the story. Thank you for watching until the end. I hope you found it enjoyable. If you did, please consider liking the video and sharing it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell for more captivating stories. Have a great day.